on if you fall on a move, but you need the difficulty of some moves, and if you omit them, then there's a bigger deduction, so that's why she repeated.
Now, if she's anywhere near the time limit, also repeating the skill will cause a problem. Standing, layout, step out.
Her country is actually better known for their rhythmic gymnastics, as opposed to this event, which is called artistic gymnastics. And when I say rhythmic, I'm talking about the ribbons, hoops, batons, and so forth. The Bulgarians dominate that in the world.
Besides the fall, she's moving quite solidly. Comes her dismount. Round off. Double pike dismount, laid out the first somersault.
That's Diana Dudeva from Bulgaria.
Now we'll see where she had her problem. This was a setup move, back handspring. She's way off to the side. There's no way she could even begin to do a layout out of that.
Turned sideways, thought it was going to be a cartwheel.
Now here's her dismount. Laid out on the first somersault, pulls it in to a pike, a little low on the landing.
Diana Dudeva.
Right down to the end of the horse. Full turn. Very, very consistent. He's very stable on that flare sequence. That's hard to do that.
The women's program has moved up as well. And here's a case in point. This combination after one rotation was in 6th. That means there are 2 teams worse than they were after one rotation. The door isn't closed yet. Only the top 3 do get into the final round. But I don't think the scores that they net will be worthy of an advancement. 9-1-7-5 the score for Diana Dudeva. She performed on the balance beam and did have the fall.
1-7-5.
And now we are waiting for the score for Lubomir Geraskov.
Lubomir Geraskov of Bulgaria, it is 9.85.
And I can hear through our public address announcer Jan Clare that he gets a 9.85. So the Bulgarians will wind up finishing after 2 rotations. We will bring you up to date as to the top 3 teams that are advancing. The USA is definitely in it. In fact, they're on top.
For your entertainment, ladies and gentlemen, an 8.
Going into the final round, they will advance along with the Soviet Union and Romania. This is the 3rd and final rotation for this competition. Now, there are some interesting things that we felt you should know about gymnastics, not just men's, but women's gymnastics as well in the United States. For instance, to make an elite gymnast, it costs $5,000 to $10,000 a year just in travel and expenses. For an athlete to maintain its eligibility, the athlete must establish a trust fund. And for some other interesting facts, we've prepared this feature for you. In women's gymnastics, the 1984 Olympians have retired. Today, Christy Phillips is one of America's best gymnasts, as is 15-year-old Phoebe Mills. These 2 competitors represent America's best hopes for a medal at the 1988 Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea. Melissa Marlowe of Rocky Mountain Gymnastics is also a strong performer for the USA. And before the Olympic team trials in August, there will be some other new faces to watch. But while the gymnasts continually change, the coaches do not. Bella Caroli is now a stalwart in the USA's women's gymnastics program. But Bella is not the only great coach in America. Don Peters, Mark Lee, and Kevin Brown are among the best. And of course, one of the strongest programs in America is right here in Allentown. The Parkettes are coached by Bill and Donna Strauss, a husband and wife team that has produced Olympians since 1976.
Really tight, get your legs right in line. Point hard, keep the back tight. Let it roll. Come on, right over, and come on. Okay, very, very nice.
Coaching today is more than the X's and O's of the apparatus. It is sophisticated fundraising to pay for equipment and travel and coaches' salaries. This is a sport of dedication, not wealth. And even though gymnastics is a very popular sport, local clubs need financial help. The cost to develop a gymnast is incredible.
Steinbrenner came on the Olympic scene because of sort of a disappointment with the medal production at the Winter Games. And he's right. We don't need people sneaking into a facility 6 o'clock in the morning to practice. We need those type of people in a facility. We need support from our government. We need support from our industry. Maybe if all industry in the country would pool their resources and we could drain the money from that pool to subsidize the kids, because one thing we're looking at in a facility like this and facilities throughout the country, our greatest natural resources are youth.
We just had a unique situation a couple weeks ago. A corporation came to us and said, what can we do? And they gave a nice little donation because they had watched the Winter Games and they felt they had to do their share. They wanted to be a part, and they said they feel like if a Parkett gymnast is on the '88 Olympic team, they've had a part in it. And that was just the greatest feeling. We want 500 corporations to do that type of thing.
So the money, although it's there, the millions, and it's getting filtered, but it isn't getting all the way to the bottom.
Right, exactly.
The beginning level, the grassroots
We
level.
find that a lot of the corporate donations, they want the limelight. So if there's a big national, international competition, they will sponsor it, and the governing body gets those funds, which they need to keep operating. But the little guys, the private clubs who are producing the athletes, they also need financial aid to keep their doors open and to keep producing.
So I would have to say, Peter and Kathy, that the moral of this story is corporate sponsorship has to start at the local level, like the local company that helped out here in Allentown at Parkettes. That's got to happen to all of our amateur sports across the board, but we're talking about gymnastics now, and the money is not there. We are looking in this arena at over $100,000 worth of equipment. Now, we're not talking about insurance. We're not talking about coaches' salaries or the money to rent this arena. We're talking about just the hardware. This is an expensive sport.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think that money is starting to go to the right places. The U.S. Gymnastics Federation is aware of that. They're putting more money into program, and that's what needs to happen. But it has to go down to the grassroots level. They made a very strong impact on me there with that statement that the money doesn't go down to the little kids.
All right. Hopefully we've made a point in corporate America. Hope you're listening. We'll be back with the third round of the mini pairs going into the finals, and these events are going to be packed with difficulty. You're in for an eye-opener. It will be the Romanians competing first on the balance beam, then the P-bars. Then the Soviet Union will go second with floor exercise and parallel bars. And then the United States tandem of Phoebe Mills and Kevin Davis. Phoebe Mills also going on floor, Davis on pommel horse. Right now, let's get in order. The balance beam is our next event, and this is Gabriela Potorak.
Now this is where Gabriela had some problems at the American Cup. She fell from the balance beam, but normally she is really tough here. Round off, lay out, step out onto the beam. Little hesitation there. Tough pass, lay out, step out.
Now she rallied from a bobbled start. I'm impressed.
That balance break won't count much at all. 1/10. Pirouettes. Always a crowd favorite.
Listen to this crowd. I mean, here we are in the USA, and they're cheering the Romanians. They're cheering good gymnastics.
Now I like that pass. A little unusual. She did a shoulder roll right into a back extension roll.
Check 1, 2.
Solid footwork. Back handspring, layout pike. Only break so far is the mount, and as I said,
And I
very
forgot
minor.
that.
And the judges might just forget it as well. Here's a dismount, very difficult. Round off back, handspring, double back. One step, again, a minor deduction.
Gabriela Potorak, 15 years of age.
This is my favorite pass, back handspring, layout, step out, immediate layout, step out. It's a very risky dismount she does. Round off, back handspring to 2 feet, right into a double back.
A fine performance and a tough
A double tuck, probably the most standard dismount on parallel bars. But he takes a step. That's a mandatory deduction. But the routine as a whole is very, very good. He scored a 9.85 in this at the American Cup.
Speaking of